Well, the Foxes hit the Rabbitohs for 6 as they score 50 points in 80 minutes. The Raiders fall to 5 in a string of poor second-half performances, and a thriller in Townsville sees the Cowboys come away with a golden point. Yes, hello and welcome back to the Sideline Chat podcast, a one-stop shop for rugby league. Along with Mark Henry, I'm Connor Marcellus, and today, well, this time we're doing things a little bit differently. We have now decided, after 17 weeks, to change things up, like the 18th man in the NRL. We're now going to do our round 9 and 10 debrief of the NRL, separate from the Betfred Super League. So this is where we begin tonight's programming, and we start off with the Rabbitohs and the Melbourne Storm. The Storm putting 50 on South Sydney.
With the bulk of them tries, well, 6 of Melbourne's tries going to Josh Adokar. What a performance by Josh Adokar.
He becomes the first player since about 1950 to score 6 tries in a game.
And he also went from outside the top 10 on the try scoring list for the season to equal second, I believe. This season.
Equal first. He's equal first with Brett Morris. He already had 5 tries on the board, but this is the part where the Fox really hit top gear.
And coming into Origin selection time, he's hit good
form.
Oh,
he solidified his position, to be quite frank.
Yeah.
But Melbourne, they really went to work on South Sydney's right edge defence. Mainly Benji Marshall and Dane Gagai were the real vulnerable links in that South Sydney edge defence.
That was definitely right. And they also, I think, targeted outside more because Adam Reynolds wasn't playing, which you could tell he was missed.
Even with Benji Marshall, just the influence of Adam Reynolds was just...
Yeah.
It could be profound.
Yeah, Adam Reynolds is like the glue. He organises the team and all that. Yes, I know they still haven't got Latrell Mitchell, but Adam Reynolds is definitely they missed the most, and that's they didn't even show up on that.
A lot of drop ball there was from South Sydney that in really good ball position.
Yeah, that is also very true. Look, and what South weren't themselves.
Well, they were missing like 4 of their regulars. What? You had Mitchell out, you had Graham out, you had Mansour out, Reynolds was out, and Cam Murray was also out.
Yeah, so hopefully they'll get them stocks back and we can see them turn around and come back to how good they were.
Well, they've got to go up against the Sharks in Brisbane, so that's going to be interesting to see how that one pans out. But in the Battle of the Dummy Halves, I feel like, in a way, this was somewhat an Origin preview.
Yes.
I definitely think the battle between Damien Cook and Harry Grant to decide who will be Australia's hooker going into the World Cup. I think Harry Grant, he's already got one up on Damien Cook already.
One up, but who knows what's going to happen. Something could happen between now and then. Hopefully it doesn't. We'll have a straightforward battle between Cook and Grant, but who knows?
Well, there's only 3 weeks until Origin, and I think Freddie's going to pick his side in about 2 weeks, so...
Things are getting very, very exciting.
Oh, yes.
You could say so.
It definitely is.
Along with Adokar's 6 tries, George Jennings got a double, and Jerome Hughes and Brendan Smith went over. And Cameron Munster's goal kicking rate was still very poor.
It was shit.
It was
shit.
He got half. 5 from 10. And Melbourne were up 26-0 at the break, so...
That was just...
That pretty much put double on again in the second
I think Craig Bellamy would have thought he didn't care about the 50. I mean, the 50's good because it helps the for and against, but he doesn't care about the 50. It's the 0 he cares about. That 0 was a clear demonstration of where the Melbourne Storm's defence is, and it's just like, you do not question the Melbourne Storm's defence.
No, you definitely can't. And he's also happy because he's held his master, because he was the apprentice at one stage.
That is true.
He's held his master to 0. So the apprentice rose in this occasion.
Yes, the student succeeding the master. Now, moving on to another shout-out performance on Friday night, the Penrith Panthers putting the Cronulla Sharks through the rinser, 48 points to 0.
After being 24-0 in front at half-time, so it's very, very identical scoreline to what the Rabbit Storm game was. Sharks were never in it. I thought, coming to this match, it's going to be a big scoreline, and it certainly proved to be that way.
Just, with the Sharks, they have fallen off a perch since John Morris got sacked. It's becoming, as Josh Hannay's tenure as interim coach continues, it's gotten worse and worse, and this was a complete collapse for the Sharks.
Well, the Sharks haven't even won a game since Josh Hannay's taken over.
No, they haven't.
So, should they have kept John Morris for the rest of the season
And then
or not?
proceed with Craig Fitzgibbon? I think they should have.
So do I, in my view, but...
And meanwhile, here you got, on the other side of the coin, Charlie Staines. He's been, I think by the standards he ridiculously set in his first 2 games of his career, coming out 3 tries, 121 running meters, and 3 line breaks on that right edge with a temporary Steve Crichton and Staines combination. They really hurt the Sharks down that left-hand channel.
Well, not only that left-hand channel, I think the whole team hurt the Sharks, considering the Sharks weren't... The defence was shit, you could say.
Yeah, like the Rabbits. It was honestly like the Rabbits.
But the Sharks one has been a continuous thing. That's what it sounds. It's just a...
It was
game.
Yeah, you'd think that would be a one-off big time.
Yeah. So as we mentioned, Staines got a hat trick. Fisher Harris crashed over, which was good to see.
Yeah, the middle defense of the Sharks didn't really stand up to task either.
No, Steve Crichton, Matt Burton kick out, and Matt Eisenhuth also scored. So
and the especially with the Eisenhuth try, because wasn't that the try that the kick went into the in goal and the Sharks failed to clean up?
yes,
I thought so.
yeah. See, that's what the Sharks needed to clean up the ball, or at least knock it dead. But
They didn't.
they didn't. They just thought the ball was going to go over, but it didn't, and Penrith capitalised on it and put the ball down to further extend their lead and put salt in the wound even more.
Oh, definitely the case, considering that, as of course, earlier on, Cameron Ciraldo knocked them on the head for a place in Fitzgibbon's coaching staff, and now just Penrith really flexing their lead in this head-to-head between themselves and Cronulla.
That is very, very true.
You know, I don't think they've won a clash against the Panthers, the Sharks, since early 2019.
Yeah, that's a possibility.
I'm
not 100% sure, but...
I definitely believe that is the case.
Yeah. But give credit where credit is due. Penrith have set a new benchmark over the last 2 seasons.
Well, they've now gone 9 straight, which is much better than what they did last year. Yeah, when they were, 8-1-1 after 10 rounds?
I think they were, so... Look, they're just a form team at the moment, and...
It'll be interesting to see how they cope with Origin.
Yeah, I'd say Origin, that's when they're going to start collapsing a little bit.
Now, a lot of the controversy begins here with this Friday night game. The Parramatta Eels downing the Sydney Roosters 31-18. Shall we address the controversy straight off the top?
Yes, we might as well. Dylan Brown.
Well, not just Dylan Brown, because we've got to go back, remember. It starts with Marata Niukore.
Yes. Sorry, I forgot about that part.
It's clubbing Tedesco again when he's already had issues with concussion.
Yeah. He can't catch a break.
Yes, apparently there is things in common with teams from Eastern Sydney and from the South that like to I can't speak for the moment. Club Tedesco around the head, eh?
Mm-hmm. Jordan Pereira. Anzac Day.
But what was even worse than Tedesco getting cleaned up by Niukore? What happened to poor Drew Hutchinson?
Oh, few broken ribs and a punctured lung.
Just
like,
Jesus,
seriously.
man. Just if he actually grounded that ball, I was honestly thinking before, or they even went back over the footage, I'm thinking, holy crap, is this even a case for an 8-point try at the moment?
Yeah, it could have well and truly been one, but
I was honestly thinking, can the referee even award an 8-point try if they haven't scored it, or is it still a penalty try because he didn't score?
I think it's... Well, they had to look to see if he was going to score to make it an 8-point try, which I think he would have
And given where the Roosters were, because I think they were behind big time at that point in the game, or it was definitely Parramatta had the ascendancy.
Yeah, Parramatta were in front.
I think it might have been 18-4 at the time, or 18-10 at the very least.
Half-time, it was 18-12, so...
18-12.
That was at half-time, so...
Yeah, that's because they kicked the penalty, I think, right on half-time,
Yeah. But putting this... The controversy is Dylan Brown getting put on report at the start of the second half.
Well, it honestly denied the Roosters their ability to call upon the 18th man, which just happened to be Joseph Suaalii. That could have been an opportunity for the Roosters to finally let this bloke loose after they probably sucked up to the NRL to get that exemption granted.
And now the NRL don't want him to play. It seems to be that way.
But other than that real blemish on what happened with the knees and the back on Hutchinson, the Eels, they performed very well.
They did, and
But I tell you what, Bryce Cartwright, what? It's just,
he's come from nowhere the last couple of seasons to come in here, and
Just-
he's popping up here. There,
I mean,
and
first
everywhere.
try, he gets the bat back off, I think it was near Corey in the first half, because
Yeah.
basically he scores off his first touch, I think.
Yeah.
Or very much close to his first touch, and then it's like 5 minutes later, he's over again.
Yeah.
Just, and the only
Where's he come from?
and considering the fact that the Roosters only one of the Roosters' first half tries was a long range intercept from Matt Ikabalu when they couldn't construct anything else,
yeah.
Parramatta were flying. Just you couldn't stop them,
You
could
could
you?
say they were slippery eels during the match. Like the Roosters couldn't get
Yeah.
hold of them.
Yeah, they definitely gave the Roosters the slip and a couple of broken ribs for some players to think about afterwards.
Well, Ikabalu got 3 tries.
Oh
Pretty
yeah,
much the only tries that the Roosters got was 3 tries.
but Parramatta just. If this was an Eel side from the back end of last year, they would have lost this. But I
Yeah.
definitely think there are a lot of lessons the Eels have learned, and they won that game really good.
And they're showing that they're contenders, not pretenders.
Now, a familiar theme that seems to have emerged in recent weeks with the Canberra Raiders going down to the Newcastle Knights 24-16 after they were up 16-0 at halftime.
How the hell did the Raiders lose that lead yet again? You'd think they would have learnt by now, but no.
It was all Raiders the first half, and George Williams was pinpoint with his game management. And that wonderful cut-out pass that helped set Bailey Simonson up in the corner. And who was the other try scorer we had?
Joe Tarpany.
Yeah, I believe it was also him involved with getting Tarpany set up for that, or one of the tries at least.
Yeah. So much about being homesick. 4 goals, including 4 out of 4 goals, include 2 penalty goals. So he was on playing good footy, George Williams.
But it really went downhill first half when Kalen Ponga just literally turned the game on his head by that short restart to start the second half with. Because
Who would have thought that?
I don't think anyone would have
early?
seen that coming. Just
No.
you're trailing 16-0. You decide to go short with the grubber from the restart, and it's just like, oh, you got the ball back. How'd you manage that?
It's generally late in the game when a team is trying to. It's like so close to winning the game, you see it happen, but not at the very beginning of the second half or whatever. So,
But then the Knights, they just kicked into it. I mean, you had Connor Watson diving over from close range through poor mark at the fence. Then you had Tyson Frizzell smash his way over. And then just Kalen Ponga again, just setting up Jaden Brayley for the match-winning try.
we had Crossland as well. That's
Oh, of course, and Phoenix Crossland as well. The temporary halves with no Mitchell Pearce or Blake Green available.
Yes, it's like their 5th string halves combination or something like that.
Oh, who would have a clue at this point? Honestly, who would have a clue where Newcastle are at in the halves?
No, I don't think anyone does besides Adam O'Brien. Well, even he might not know. But the Raiders did, yet again, they looked like they didn't turn up and they went to sleep, which isn't the first time it's happened this season. And it's not a good thing. This game, in my view, was a make or break game for either club.
Oh, we agreed. We agreed that this was do or die
Yeah.
for both sides. And it seems Newcastle have pulled it back from the jaws of defeat.
And looks like the Raiders are slowly slipping out and down,
Yeah.
which is very unfortunate.
It becomes very hard considering the next 3 weeks they have the Roosters and the Melbourne Storm within the window. But hopefully they think it's Origin by that point and Melbourne are missing literally half their side.
Yeah, but even with Melbourne still missing half their side, they're still pretty good.
The logic is don't worry about who's out. You worry about who's in the side. I think that's really what the focus should be for Ricky Stewart at this point.
And pretty much the only focus that they need to worry about, because if they don't focus on that, then it's going to get very, very ugly very, very fast.
Now, the second game on Saturday night, the Gold Coast Titans running out 36-28 victors over the West Tigers in the Tigers' second failed tribute to the late, great Tom Raudonikis.
Yes. This time it was at Campbelltown, and they wore a special jersey in honour of him, but that didn't do anything.
Well, no, it didn't, because the Titans rocked up and scored close to 3 tries in the first 15 minutes.
It was 24-12 at the break.
Yeah, the Tigers did get lucky with those late tries.
But the Titans just are too good. like they've shown on numerous occasions throughout the year.
The Titans started fast, but you would definitely be thinking, I'm mistaken for thinking it would be a case of deja vu after the Tigers got those 2 tries to make the scoreline a bit more competitive heading into the second half.
Yeah, you would think so. The Titans, they may be a little bit concerned about their defence late in the game because they let in 3 tries in 23 minutes. So that's a bit of a concern.
I think that's really something Justin Holbrook really needs to look at, considering David Norfoluma was basically on a quick fire.
Well, yeah, he got a double, so. But.
And Adam Dewey, once more, being the real linchpin in the Tigers' spine in failure of Luke Brooks, 160 running metres, setting up 2 try assists, and having 5 tackle breaks to his name.
And he had a try himself.
Oh, yes, yeah, I think I might have seen that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, so Norfoluma got a try, Dewey got a try, like Joey Lowe got a try, and Jake Simpson got a try.
He's come back from nowhere, Joey Leilua, hasn't he?
I know. Maybe.
He might get lucky. That Madge might actually spare him.
Maybe. What doesn't help the Titans is David Fafita's out. Well, could be out.
No, he has been out. They finally locked in that he's going to be suspended for the next 2 weeks, so he will miss the clash against the Panthers in Brisbane come day 3 of the Magic Round.
Which is not what Titans need to come in up against a form side.
And with all the talk about Tino Fa'asuamaleaui being sent home with ailments, it doesn't look good for the Titans heading into round 10, just to say the least.
Well, no, but who knows what's going to happen.
Well, no one knew what would happen next in Townsville in really the clash of supposed Queensland heavyweights between the North Queensland Cowboys and the Brisbane Broncos. The Cowboys running away 19 points to 18 winners over the Broncos, but it didn't look like that to start things off.
Well, no, considering if you look at the scoreline at half-time, Broncos were in front 12-8. But it's still close, but the Broncos did look like they were in the better form.
Carl Felt's try was to start the night off. That was just... That's a contender for try of the year.
Oh,
just
easy.
He didn't even look, and yet somehow he managed to find the line, and he had, you can't really blame the Broncos defense.
Was it 3 or 4 defenders?
I think it was 3 Brisbane defenders. You can't really blame them because they didn't even know he could pop the ball out and find the try line in the fashion he did.
You got to have to try, and if it works off, it works off, and if it doesn't, it doesn't. In this case, it worked off very, very well.
The Brisbane right edge, though, with Xavier Coates and Jesse Arthurs. 2 good tries were scored down, and the Cowboys' left edge defensively, and especially the second try where Coates helps set up Arthurs to really put the Broncos in a good position heading into the second half, but unfortunately losing Pat Carrigan
for the season.
That really hurts. It really does.
Definitely does. And now they're kind of probably maybe in a slight injury crisis too, I think.
Well, they're still missing Alex Glenn. Katoni Staggs is still about 5 weeks away.
Pat Carrigan is now out for the season.
Alex Glenn, and who really knows? Tessie News stuck behind Jesse Arthurs and Herbie Farnworth in the centres.
So they're in a bit of a dilemma.
And then there's David Mead as well.
Well, yeah. When he was in the first grade side, he was playing pretty good. But now he's out of it, so...
I think that's about it, but... This was a return to a classic Cowboys-Broncos clash.
What we used to see,
pretty much from usually the standards of that real grind, tight contest that usually takes some late-minute drama to win the game, and that late-minute drama being Valentine Holmes kicking the match-winning field goal, essentially.
Yes, it was. Look, this game, like you said, is back to how it should be between the two, tight contests and that, which I think dates in the last
since
year
the 2015 grand final.
They've been within 6 points.
This is what you want to see from the Cowboys and Broncos clashes. This is exactly what you want to see.
Or not just the Cowboys Broncos clash, but any sort of local derby.
Tight contest. That's exactly what you want to get out of it. Now,
the Cowboys prevailed.
On to the Sunday games. We have the Manly Sea Eagles 38 outlasting the New Zealand Warriors 32. Again, Tom Trbojevic. Where did he come from? Is he from Mars, the way he played?
Possibly.
Because I tell you what, this performance was out of this world. We're talking 2 tries as he scored, breaking the Warriors' defense apart. 4 try assists, most of them, I think, in the lead up to part of Jason Saab's hat trick, and a solo try for Morgan Harper. 8 tackle breaks and then 235 running meters. Where has this bloke been?
Injured?
Yes. That was the obvious answer, but that was really rhetorical.
Yes, I know. But since he's come back, Manly are flying up the ladder.
You'd honestly have to think Manly at this stage. They're a dark horse, Manly.
I was just about to say they could quietly sneak into the top 8 coming into the season. If he stays fit.
At 4, I think, what are Manly at the moment? 4 and 5 or 5 and 4?
I think they're 4 and 5.
Well, they could easily go 5 and 5, and I definitely think they're on an upwards trajectory, the way they're playing at the moment.
Well, the Warriors aren't playing too bad.
The Warriors didn't play bad. No, it's just
they're that little bit inconsistent.
Just that pocket of time when after they were up 20-12, Manly kicked into turbo gear. Yes, and literally speaking, Tom Trbojevic was man of the match, no questions.
Well, that was no surprise there, really.
Yeah, but just the Warriors, they just couldn't handle him, and it really showed. Even when Reece Walsh scored late to make it a try the difference, and that bloody try-saving tackle that Jason Saab has made to deny Ken Mamalo the match-leveling try to potentially send it to Golden Point.
It would have been awesome in this game when it to Golden Point because both teams did deserve to win it.
It was a stand-up performance from the Warriors, but the defense cost them. They fought back, but they just couldn't fight back quick enough.
Yeah, so maybe a little bit too little, too late. But in all, we had 2 cracker games in a row with the Cowboys, Bronx, and the Seagulls, Warriors. So it's getting to, because they're coming to the origin period, everyone will be trying to play for a spot in either Queensland or New South Wales. Yep. So anything can happen nowadays.
And now, ladies and gentlemen, this will be the part of the Sunday program where I strangle Mark or literally just making a terrible situation at Canterbury even worse as the Dragons run out 32-12 victors.
And the Sideline Chat co-host Cup Part 1 goes to Dragons.
Are you sure this is enough? Because this would really have to come down to for and against if we level things up on the Queen's birthday.
Well, yeah, okay. But if you guys played how you did, it looks like that we're going to demolish.
But to be in all fairness, the scoreline was only 6-0 at half time,
which I couldn't believe my eyes. I thought
the Dogs watching that game. The Dogs had a lot of ball early, and I honestly thought with the Dragons making those errors early when they did, I thought, oh, here we go. We could really apply some pressure to the Dragons, but.
No.
Kyle Flanagan, I know he's had a rough time.
I feel so sorry for that kid.
I definitely, he shouldn't, the Dogs should not have made him, they should have said to him, look, we know there I go again. We know you can't front the media when you're in this state of mind. You shouldn't do it. But then again, as the point was made on NRL 360, I think between Brent Reed and Paul Crawley, even if he hadn't, they'd be like, well, where's Carl? Shouldn't we really be seeing how he's doing?
Yeah, but he said he was going to do it.
Yeah.
And you could see how much it hurt him.
Paul Kent, I think, made this point exactly just like, with all the, I think in his words, the bullshit they're going on about with player welfare, that there was a genuine moment where the Bulldogs hierarchy did not take Carl Flanagan's mental state ahead of the open day with the press, where we talk about welfare, but they did not look after him here. I think they shouldn't. They should have told him blanket no. We don't think you're up to this. We'll get someone else. But the problems begin for the Bulldogs, I should say, in the second half, as it often does. Yeah,
but going quickly back to Kyle Flanagan, he had a rough career at the Sharks.
Well, it was sort of stable at the Sharks early on because they were going strongly at that point. But then it slipped down. But then things started sliding.
And then he went into Roosters, which he was used to winning and everything, and how he got shafted out of there was not very good.
They couldn't really pin just like their hopes for the three-peat on it, despite the way they were still playing good. But
yeah, and he's gone to the Dogs, and
where he was literally billed as the man to save the club,
the marquee signing.
You could say I mean, all the signings Canterbury have made, the big ones like Carl Flanagan, Nick Cottridge,
Adokar next year.
Brent Naden,
Yeah.
Matt Burton. I mean,
Yeah.
but mainly Flanagan and Cottridge. They're busting their guts out, but just it's not really coming together.
No results are coming.
And I have to say, as well, things are just the compound that with Corey Allen and Lachlan Lewis going down.
Oh,
just
yeah.
with, I mean, I'm glad they're out of hospital, and for Lewis that there is no internal organ damage. But
yes, that's a good
that
thing.
just really sums up, because he would have been one of the first choice halves to knock either Averillo or Flanagan out, because I think he's honestly the best half and foil for Flanagan.
Because he's been a bit in and out of the teams too.
He suffered as well. I mean, he tries. They all try. I mean, you can't. You can never fault.
Tries.
You can never fault the Bulldogs on effort, but it's finesse and execution that you sort of have to say. And otherwise, the Dragons, they made very good work of both edges defensively.
Well, and two debutants in Matt Fairguy, which is Max Fairguy's twin, if everyone did not know
Ben
that.
Hunt down the sidelines. That's one thing you never want to hear.
No. And then Junior Amona also getting a try, along with Matt Duffy, a double, and Paul Vaughan and Corey Norman. Yeah, so we had a good field day. It's good to see the two debutants get a try.
Oh, it was definitely good. And I think Ben Hunt's still cementing his place for Queensland, even if he's not a starting halfback.
But it wasn't our best performance. And I feel if Canterbury need to get a few more wins in the bag soon, otherwise the wooden spoon is theirs.
Well, it almost is, really, isn't it?
Yeah, practically.
Now, that's the end of round 9. And I sense there is magic in the air, because the 2021, I think it's sponsored by KFC, Magic Round kicks off round 10 of the Telstra Premiership, and we get into it with the West Tigers and the Newcastle Knights in our first day 1 fixture.
Well, this is just quickly. This is a second time Magic Round has happened, as it didn't happen in 2020. So it'll be good to see it back.
Yes,
finally.
because of certain forces that we shall not talk about.
Well, I think everyone knows anyway. But still,
we'll keep it ambiguous. At certain forces.
Yes.
Now, Newcastle, the changes. At the moment, Braden Musgrove remains named, but apparently suffering a rib injury against Canberra means that Stafford Toa will stay at the moment unless Hymel Hunt returns. Apart from that, the same 17 have been retained for Newcastle, with Mitch Barnett moving or staying in his lock forward role, with Connor Watson returning to the bench.
As for the Tigers, Adam Dewey has gone from 5'8" to centre, and Enby is going to in the halves. Jacob Little is back at starting dummy half, with Simpkin dropping back to the extended bench. Sean Blaw and Jock Madden have been named on interchange, which promotes Stefano Uticamard.
Boy back because he is due to be playing for Western Suburbs in the Knock-On Effect Cup's only fixture this week due to level 3 biosecurity protocols.
Yep.
When the Magpies play the Bears at North Sydney Oval, 7:30 on Fox League, if anyone's actually interested in a bit of retro rugby league.
And Zach Sini is out, with Tommy Talau back in, if I've got that correct.
That is the case. But look,
yes,
I think the problems of the Tigers are well known, that they've got one half that is busting his guts out and another one that really should be shown the door.
And we all know what one's going to be shown the door.
It's going to be Luke Brooks.
It's going to be.
You're looking at a spine next year. You're looking Laurie, Dewey, Hastings, and I would probably toss up between Little and Jake Simpkin at this point.
Yeah, it has to be Brooks. This one could go either way. Look, because the Tigers have been playing, the Knights haven't been much that better.
But Newcastle have got that confidence-boosting win, and they're looking like they're settled for the moment.
They're the better team in form at the moment than the Tigers. It's on a neutral ground, like for a head-to-head clash between these two.
And they both have won a Magic Round fixture in the past, but I can't go past Newcastle at this stage. I think if they tighten up their right edge defensively against the Tigers, and as well as limit the impact Adam Dewey could have on the game, as he would probably be playing at, I would probably think right centre, wouldn't he? He would be right centre, because Leilua has been playing left for last couple of weeks. So I would think Newcastle 1-12.
I'd say Newcastle 1-12 and win by 6.
And the last fixture on day 1 of Magic Round, we have the Manly Seagulls up against the Brisbane Broncos. Now, the Broncos have been forced into a couple of changes here. Tom Flegler now has been promoted to lock forward after Pat Carrigan's season was cut short. Very sadly. John Asiata has returned to the bench, wearing number 15, whilst Brendan Picara has now been named, I believe, in the reserves ahead of his potential first grade debut, whether or not he becomes the 18th man. And I think that's all the changes that have been made for Brisbane. Jake Turpin has been named captain of the Broncos.
As for the Sea Eagles, Paseka has been named after copying a couple of head knocks over the win. So he'll need to pass his the HIA protocols. He will be in the front row, in the front with Martin Tapau, who is back from a head knock this week, which puts Sean Kepi back to the bench. And Zach Sadler to the extended bench, and George DeFord drops out altogether. And Curtis Sirenen, at least next week, he might be back.
Well, looking at the Broncos, I mean, despite the fact that they have been improving, this will be their biggest test to date since claiming victory against the Titans 2 weeks ago.
Well, they put it up against Penrith too, like in a way. So it's kind of that, but Penrith are way higher than what Manly are. So.
Oh yeah, but Manly, the way they've been playing, you would think Manly could slaughter anyone that they played against, especially the way Tom Drabojevic, as we just touched on earlier, has been playing. I think the right edge of Manly really needs to be careful, especially with big bodies like Corey Oates running around about there. So it's definitely going to be a good aerial battle between him and Jason Saab. That would be my only concern. But I think Manly have improved defensively to the point that I think they could repulse the Broncos, and I think this will be a Manly 13-plus victory.
Well, if the Broncos can stay in touch and don't let Tom Turbo run riot, well, then they could be in with a chance. But the rate that they've been playing, and yes, it's at Suncorp Stadium, but Brisbane are the away team. Mind that, but that doesn't really matter. I reckon the Seagulls will win by 14.
All right, so we're both thinking a Seagulls 13-plus win for the end of day 1. Now we move on to the beginning of day 2. It's the Canterbury Bulldogs and the Canberra Raiders. The Raiders have been forced into a couple of changes. As with no Jordan Rapana, Joe Tarpany or Ryan Sutton, Semi Velame comes in for his first game of the year, taking his place out on the right wing. Hudson Young is promoted to lock forward in the absence of Joe Tarpany. And Josh Hodgson finds his way back onto the bench. And with Tom Starling still starting, Saliva Havili back to the reserves, and Harry Rushton enlisted in the reserves for this clash for Ricky Stewart's side.
As for the Dogs, unfortunately, Flanagan has been dropped, with Jake Averillo coming in and into number 7, and Brendan Waken coming in at 5'8". Nick Meaney moves into the centres in place of the injured Corey Allen. Tui Kotoa is named on the win. Napa makes a return from shoulder injury, with Simon Fanai dropping back to the bench. And Otoni moves from the bench to a lock in the swap with Corey Waddell.
And not to mention Chris Smith also starts in the second row as well.
That too.
All right. Yeah. This is the point where I'm going to say I have got nothing to say about this, so I'm just going to say it will be a Canberra 1-12 victory.
Well, somehow Canberra blew a 16-point lead against Newcastle last week, and the Dogs lost by 20 against the Saints. So, it's another neutral ground for this fixture.
I know the Dogs bust their guts out, but against the class of the Canberra Raiders, even a badly performing Canberra Raiders could still beat this Bulldog side as it currently stands.
Yeah. And if the Raiders don't blow a lead if the Raiders blow a lead again...
That's a good joke. When have we ever led?
If the Raiders blow...
All right, we actually did lead against the Sharks, but that was the Sharks.
If the Raiders blow a lead, Canterbury could capitalise, but Raiders will win by 10.
Yep, I would definitely think the Raiders win that one. Now, the middle game of day 2, we see the Cronulla Sharks up against the South Sydney Rabbitohs, and there's a couple of big ins at the moment for Wayne Bennett's side. Adam Reynolds returns to halfback after missing the last clash against the Melbourne Storm. That would see Hawkins dumped back to the reserves, with Tane Milne returning to the wing, with Steve Masters also dropping back to the reserves, and no other change.
Well, Cody
And Liam Knight also promoted to lock forward, with Jai Arrow returning to the bench, joining Mark Nichols, Hame Sele, and Jed Cartwright from the week prior.
Josh Dugan is back to replace Jesse Ramian, who is going to be out for 4 to 6 weeks with an eye socket fracture. Andrew Fafita.
Well, that's going to be a big one.
He's a big in, and he's named in the number 17 jersey. And that's pretty much all it. And here's an interesting stat. The Sharks have won the past 4 games in Queensland.
Past 4 games, but they're coming up against a Rabbitohs side looking for redemption.
Yeah, but they're going to lose this one, the Sharks.
Look, the Sharks are competitive early. I think that's what it's made apparent, and looking at the first few month and a bit of Josh Hanne's tenure. The Sharks are competitive, unless they come up against a really good side, then they can't really do much about that. But the last time they played the Rabbitohs, it was round 1 2020. That game was on I believe it was the case, and that game was on a knife's edge.
It was, but a lot has happened since then.
Yes, but I think it'll be an interesting test to see how the Rabbitohs respond to the news circulating at the moment that Adam Reynolds will be leaving Souths to join the Brisbane Broncos.
I think it's going to be confirmed in the next 24 to 48 hours.
That's the word going through the media at the moment, that Adam Reynolds will become a Bronco.
Considering he said he never wants to leave Sydney.
Well, things have definitely changed, and his retirement plans have been brought forward to live on the Gold Coast, which at the same time would add a lot more spice to this clash, as the Sharks were trying to lure Adam Reynolds to the Sutherland Shire.
That's very true.
And now they're facing the man that's going to be wearing maroon and gold for potentially the next 3 years after that.
Yeah.
That'll be a heavy point for South Sydney to prove, and I definitely think they'll run away with this 13+.
It's going to be one-way traffic. I reckon Cronulla are going to get humiliated yet again and continue going down the ladder. South will bounce back big time to win by 24 points. And
to cap off day 2, we have the Sydney Roosters and the North Queensland Cowboys. Tom Gilbert included on the reserves for the Cowboys side, as Ben Condon is bumped back to the bench yet again. I don't think there's any other changes to the North Queensland side. Yep, no changes
that's
from...
pretty much it. It's unchanged, practically, besides what you said. For the Roosters, another halves combination pairing. This time Lachlan Lamb comes in to replace Hutchinson. So he'll be partnering Sam Walker. Stili Tupanua is back in the back row, making Nat Butcher go to the interchange with Tuku
Saluka Fafita.
No, Tuku Hau Tafua in the jersey 19 back to the reserves. Victor Radley has been named also, as well as Sam Walker Shorter, with Suwali yet again in the reserves. And otherwise, a pretty much unchanged side.
Well, looking at that between the Roosters and the Cowboys, I think everyone's going to be thinking, Taumalolo's back to his best form. He can tackle anyone.
Yeah, that's only just one game, though. Coming up against
this
Brisbane,
will be Todd Payton's biggest.
Nowhere near the Roosters. Even the Roosters aren't that
the Roosters are still in a bit of grips of an injury crisis at the moment, and they have not been playing well. And losing Drew Hutchinson and Sam Verrills with that detached eye retina, that does not help their cause whatsoever.
Well, if Victor Radley doesn't pass these concussion protocols, he could be also out.
And that will really be sort of how the Roosters try and get up over the Cowboys. Ball play through the middle, because they know Taumalolo is just going to try and run at them hard.
It's definitely starting to become, for the Roosters, it's really, really testing their depth.
I definitely think
they've
this
got
could be
plenty of it. There's
this could
somehow-
honestly be a danger game for the Roosters at this moment. If the
No
Cowboys dominate through the middle and Clifford gets the better of Sam Walker, which will be interesting to see how that actually goes down.
The Roosters are somehow still naming a 21-man squad. Somehow.
When considering half the salary cap sitting on the sideline through injury.
Probably more than half the salary cap. Oh, wait, sorry, it's Sam Barrow. Get it right.
So what, they cut half the sombrero off and they just sat it in the hospital and the other half is just being worn by someone at the Roosters that totally isn't Nick Politis or Trent Robinson.
Damn it, you beat me too. I was going to say Nick Politis, but yeah.
But no.
It could be great to Kevin taking the other half to Cronulla next year.
He's going to need it.
Because he's got $3 billion.
He's going to need it.
Next year, so
Honestly, he will need it.
Yeah.
But I think at the same time, the Roosters are still very much a class act, even with all the injuries they've suffered.
Yeah.
I definitely think it'll be a tough game, but I think the Roosters still come away under 12.
Well, the Cowboys have played good footy over the last month, you could say.
Since round 5, really.
Yeah, so the last month they've been playing pretty good. The Roosters are determined to stay in the top. What are they? Top 4?
Top 8.
Top 8. They're determined to stay in the top 8 and try and push that top 4 bracket. But the Cowboys could put a dent into that. But at the end of the game, the Roosters will come out on top by only 12 points.
Right. Now on to day 3. We have the New Zealand Warriors up against the Parramatta Eels. A lot of ins for the Eels, although they're very lucky to have those ins at the moment. Walker Blake returns from injury to compensate for the loss of Marata Niukore. Jake Arthur gets his start at 5'8", depending if he does get allowed in the Queensland, to partner Mitchell Moses in the halves. Ray Stone has also been added to the bench alongside Oregon Kaufusi, Sean Lane and Bryce Cartwright, with Joey Lussick also joining the reserves with Jordan Rankin, depending whether or... Well, we actually know the Eels have got that exemption to allow those players in, but not allowed to train together until game day.
Yes. And FYI, Jacob Arthur is Brad Arthur's son, if anyone did not know that. Warriors team changes is that Ben Murdoch-Masila is back and he's starting in the second row, with Baylor Siranen dropping to the reserves in the only change. And another fun stat, Chuvas Shecker scored 8 tries on 10 games against the Eels, so he could continue that.
This will be a test of the Warriors' character after narrowly going down to Manly, coming up against this red-hot Parramatta forward pack.
Who's only lost 1 game the whole season, which is pretty impressive.
I mean, we talk about Penrith's 9-0, but Parramatta have been the next best thing to Penrith.
They're kind of like flying under the radar that little bit, like Penrith at the top of the ladder, because Penrith have taken all the headlines. They won every game.
It's the left edge of Parramatta needs to be watched like a hawk, especially whenever Bryce Cartwright gets injected into the game, because the moment Cartwright gets injected, something happens. Whether he sets up a try, or he scores a try, or he's just causing havoc.
Alarm bells will be ringing.
Wherever he goes.
And the Warriors will be seeing red when he comes back onto it, and when he gets ejected into the game.
I'm not sure about Nathan Brown's strategy of having Reece Walsh come from the field, but I suppose his injection could also be a big point of difference as well, depending where the game is at.
Well, it didn't work last week when he ejected Reece Walsh into the side. I've heard that they... Excuse me. I've heard that I should have had Chanel Harris-Tavita off the bench and Reece Walsh starting, because Harris-Tavita needs to work his way back into match fitness. So that cost him... I'd say that's what cost him last week.
As well as their poor middle defence. And when you're going up against 2 forwards that are probably 2 of the best middles in the game, with Regan Campbell-Gillard and Junior Paulo, with Nathan Brown punching holes in the middle, you would have to be on your guard, because one of these blokes is going to pop an offload or come up with a nice cower pass that sends Gutherson, Stevo, or Opacek over, or even Ferguson over for a try.
Yeah. For the Warriors, also another injury update. Peter Hiku sounds like he's going to be out for the season.
Yeah, that is the case.
Which is unfortunate.
So those are my main areas of concern for the Warriors, and I would say Parramatta win 1-12.
I'm going to say the Eels will keep getting... The Eels are getting better and better as the season rolls on. And they should win this one in the 13-plus margin to win by 16 points.
The middle game of day 3 sees the Melbourne Storm up against the St George Illawarra Dragons. Michaeli Ravawala coming back in for the injured Matt Fearguy. As well as Junior Amone getting dropped back to the bench. And as well with Pawasa Farmasili coming back in as well.
Melbourne, they're missing big players this week. Brendan Smith out suspended. Harry Grant hamstring. Cam Munster out with a foot injury. Pappenhausen's only been named in the reserves list. Who could come in?
He's still a chance.
Riley Jackson's at 5'8", and Kenny Bromwich is at hooker.
With Dale Finucane starting at lock forward and Tui Kamikamifa in the second row.
And Tyson Smoothy and Tom Eisen, who's joined the bench. Tyson Smoothy could be into the halves? No, into
dummy half.
Dummy half instead of Kenny Bromwich.
He'll definitely be working in tandem with Kenny Bromwich, but I probably think Kenny could go the whole game. Wherever you play him. That's just what Kenny Bromwich does.
Yeah.
He's just that specialist utility, but he's definitely found a home on Melbourne's left edge.
I don't think he's ever played... I haven't seen him play at dummy half before. I don't know about yourself, but I think this is the first.
Well...
But it could change on
the
game
big thing for the Dragons is, I mean, those are big outs. Losing Munster, Grant, and the Cheese, Brandon Smith. But
and Pappenhausen still doesn't
that's
play.
still a formidable forward pack.
Players.
That's still a formidable forward pack they have to come up against, especially when you unleash the likes of Nelson Asofa Solomona from the bench.
Yes. Look, it's going to be a very tough game for the Dragons, and the Dragons need to keep the defence as tight as possible, and the attack needs to be first class to try and shut out Melbourne.
I don't think the Dragons, even though the Dragons scraped their way to victory, even though the score did turn out into a blowout, Melbourne are still Melbourne in defence, and I definitely think their right edge has come on leaps and bounds now that Jennings, Remus Smith, and Jerome Hughes have gotten some game time together.
In that combination.
I think this will be an entertaining clash for day 3, but I've got to go with the Storm 1-12 margin.
Well, like I said, it's a real test for the Dragons to see if they are contenders for the premiership or they're pretenders. And including myself and a lot of people wrote them off before round 1 this season. I know I definitely did. Not being biased. But I feel like they're the surprise packet so far this season. I don't know about what you think. But look, the Storm will still be strong in the end, so I'm going to tip the Storm to win by 14.
And the final game we have in day 3 of the Magic Round, the Gold Coast Titans up against the Penrith Panthers. I would only think there is only one change for the Panthers at this point in time, and that is the inclusion of Jermaine Hopgood on the bench to make his first grade debut. Liam Martin moves into the second row for Kurt Capewell, who has been ruled out with HIA. But other than that, Penrith still have the core of their squad together.
Oh, Paul Momorowski's been named in the reserves because he can't be available yet again. For the Titans, Tino Fasuamalali is not named, I don't think.
He has been named.
He has been named.
But he has been sent home feeling ill.
Yes. But he's in no doubt of playing at this stage. Big news, David Fafita is out suspended for 2 weeks after trying to get his charge downgraded, but was unsuccessful. Bo Firma will move to the second row to replace Fafita, and recent recruit SM Masters is a chance to start at centre, and Tanner Boyd remains at 5'8".
In place of Ash Taylor. Well,
yes.
The Titans have started fast. That's sort of what's become noticed in recent weeks. That when they're up, when they got the tails up, they come out to a fast start.
They do.
They would have to start. They would definitely have to start fast against this Penrith Panthers side, because I feel Penrith would be very capable of running them down if the Titans got up on the board early.
Well, the rate the Titans, like I said, have been starting fast. They show that they can. Well, it's like Brisbane, they can run out to a big lead and then fall close at the end. So it's going to be another real test for the Gold Coast.
I don't think they can match this, and I think Penrith will run out 13-plus victors over the Gold Coast. I just think they're too well-rounded in both attack and defence to really trouble I don't think they'll get troubled at all. I think they'll go 10-0.
Yeah, I agree. Final tip is going to be Penrith will be winners for the 10th time in a row and by 10 points.
Well, that's the end of this new format of the Sideline Chat podcast. That was your round 9 and 10 NRL debrief. Stick around as we'll do the Betfred Super League and Challenge Cup quarterfinal wrap up, as well as your look ahead for round 6. Stay tuned for what comes next.